Mommy, are we sleeping there?
Only for tonight.
It looks scary.
I know.
Get away from that gate!
We have nowhere else to go.
There is a village over the ridge.
My daughter is burning up.
Find another roof.
This house is abandoned.
No, it's abandoned. That's different.
Who lived here?
Rowan Blackmore,
The Alpha who died?
7 winters ago.
Then he has no use for the rooms.
None.
What is it?
There's someone inside.
There can't be anyone in there.
Why?
Those doors were sealed the night Rowan Blackmore died.
7 winters ago?
No one has entered since. None.
Mommy! He's knocking.
3 hours earlier, Mira Vale still believed shelter would be the hardest part of the day. Black Hollow appeared through the snow. Smoke curled from stone chimneys. Lanterns glowed behind shuttered windows. A bell rang. For one dangerous moment, Mira believed they'd made it. Lila barely moved beneath her cloak. Mira touched her forehead. Still burning. Stay awake for me. I'm awake. You promised me soup when we found a village. Mira managed a smile. Then we'd better find a generous cook. The smile vanished the second Lila closed her eyes again. 6 days on the road. 6 days since Mira stood in the courtyard of the home she'd shared with her husband and watched his family throw her belongings into the snow. Tomas had been dead less than a year. His protection died with him. His brother wanted the rooms. The pack elders called her a burden they couldn't carry through another winter. Nobody said cruelty. They called it necessity. By sunset, Mira and her 5-year-old daughter were packless. Mud darkened the hem of her once respectable dress. Her boots had begun to split. People could see she'd fallen. That interested them more than why. At the edge of Black Hollow, a woman carrying firewood clocked her. The child, the empty place on her cloak where a pack clasp should hang, and looked away. 2 men by the stable stopped talking. Mira kept walking. She needed warmth, not approval. The common house glowed near the village center. She pushed the door open. Heat rolled over her. Wood smoke, roasted meat, fresh bread. Lila lifted her head. Soup? Yes. Conversation died around the room. Mira knew that silence. The keeper looked at her cloak, then at Lila. You're not Black Hollow. No. Which pack? Mira hesitated. Someone near the fire whispered. None. Another voice answered. Packless. The keeper's face closed. She pushed forward anyway. My daughter has a fever. I need a room until morning. I'll clean, mend, work the kitchen. Whatever you need. We have workers. Then just broth. For her. Lila coughed against her shoulder. The keeper stepped back. No sickness in my house. She's been riding through snow all day. That's not our responsibility. Mira stared at the steaming pot 10 steps away. 1 bowl. No. A man laughed from the nearest table. If she wants a roof so badly, send her to Moonfall. The room change. Mira turned. What is Moonfall? An old villager answered from the hearth. The Blackmore estate. Rowan Blackmore? Even Mira knew the name. The last true alpha of Black Hollow. Dead 7 winters, the man said. And his house with him, someone added. The laughing man raised his cup. Plenty of rooms, no rent. Unless the dead alphas started collecting. A few people chuckled. Mira looked at Lila's flushed face. Where is it? The laughter stopped. The keeper looked at her like she'd gone from poor to foolish. North Road. Beyond the ridge. Is the roof standing? Most of it. That's enough. She turned for the door. Behind her, someone muttered that desperate women had no sense. Maybe, but sense wouldn't keep Lila alive through another night in the snow. Outside, daylight was already dying. Mira mounted the mare, tucked Lila beneath her cloak, and rode the north road through dark pines, Black Hollow disappearing chimney by chimney behind them. Snow thickened. The mare stumbled again. Easy, Mira whispered. A third stumble nearly threw them. Mira dismounted, ran a hand down the mare's leg. Swollen. Hot. The horse could go no farther. The next village lay beyond the eastern ridge. Moonfall stood less than a mile ahead. No choice left. She tied the mare beneath a stand of pine, took their food bundle, and lifted Lila into her arms. "I can walk," Lila whispered. "No, I'm big." "You're enormous. That's the problem." A weak laugh escaped the child. Mira held onto it. She walked. Boots sinking past the ankle, arms burning. The road a pale ribbon between black trees. Then the pines opened. Moonfall rose from the mountain. Stone walls, dark towers, snow-buried roofs. Iron gates standing open on a long white path. Every window black, except one, high in the manor, glowing faint amber. Lila lifted her head. "Mommy?" A man stepped from beside the gate, an iron lantern in his hand. Mira tightened her hold. The moment he saw where she was headed, fear crossed his face. Minutes later, after he warned her, after Lila whispered about a man beneath the house, after Moonfall answered with 2 impossible knocks, Mira stood again at the open gate, exactly where the story began. Hale's face was white. "Take her and go." Mira looked back at the road. Darkness, snow, a lame horse somewhere behind them. Then she looked at Lila. Shaking again. Ahead stood a house the whole village feared. But houses didn't laugh at hungry children. Houses didn't turn away fever because it was inconvenient. Mira stepped through the gate. "Show me another roof before she freezes," she said, "and I'll leave." Hale had no answer. Moonfall waited above them. Mira started up the path. If you were standing where Mira was, with a sick child in your arms, would you risk the road through the snow, or spend the night inside a house the whole village was afraid to enter? Tell me in the comments. And if you're into rejected women, hidden secrets, and impossible second chances, subscribe. Moonfall hasn't even started showing you what it's hiding. The servant's entrance was almost hidden beneath dead ivy on Moonfall's eastern wall. Mira found it only because Hale finally pointed with his lantern. "The frame is rotten," he said. "If you force it, it may not close again. If I don't force it, my daughter may not see morning." That ended the argument. Mira set Lila beneath the stone arch, pushed her shoulder against the swollen wood, and felt the lower hinge tear free. Cold air rolled out of the passage. Moonfall smelled of damp stone, dust, and a house shut too long. Hale entered behind them. The manor was enormous. Furniture slept beneath gray sheets. Faded Blackmore banners hung crooked along the walls. A silver wolf crest had been hacked from one plaque so violently that splinters still scarred the wood. Mira didn't stop to wonder why. Not yet. She found the old kitchen at the rear of the estate. The roof was sound there. Dry wood remained beneath a covered alcove. Within minutes, a small flame caught in the great stone hearth. Mira melted snow, mixed her last fever herbs into the water, and held the cup to Lila's lips. "It tastes awful. That means it's working. You always say that." "Because it keeps being true." Lila managed half a smile. By the time the fire warmed the stones, Lila had stopped shivering. For the first time in 6 days, Mira could breathe without wondering whether her daughter would survive the next hour. The relief lasted until the sound came again. Thud. From somewhere beneath the kitchen, Hale rose so fast his stool fell backward. Mira stared at the floor. This time she'd heard it clearly. The house was not empty. Morning brought quieter snow, and an old woman named Elowyn Rook. She appeared at the servant's door with willow bark, dried moonleaf, and broth. "I used to work here," she said, examining Lila. Before Moonfall forgot what laughter sounded like. "Did you know Rowan Blackmore?" Elowyn's hands paused. "Once. Yes. What happened to him?" The story everyone knows isn't always the story that happened. Before Mira could press her, hoofbeats sounded outside. Garrick Vane entered, without waiting to be invited. Regent of Black Hollow. Tall, carefully dressed, silver wolf clasp at his throat. He looked at Mira, then the fire, then Lila. "You were told this estate was forbidden. I was told my daughter would die on the eastern road. This house is unsafe. Then why are you inside it?" Elowyn hid a smile. Garrick didn't. When the weather clears, you leave. Lila shifted beneath her blanket. The man knocked again. Everything in Garrick's face changed, only for a heartbeat. What man? The one under the house. Silence. Then Garrick laughed, too deliberately. Fever gives children strange dreams. But when he turned to leave, his eyes dropped toward the kitchen floor. Mira saw it. So did Elowin. Garrick wasn't afraid of Moonfall. He was afraid of what might still be inside it. The snow didn't clear. 1 day became 3. Lila's fever eased. Then her appetite returned. Moonfall slowly began to change around them. Mira swept the kitchen because Lila needed a clean place to sleep. She washed one window because she wanted daylight. She cleared a second room because Elowin needed space for herbs. Hale started leaving firewood by the door without announcing himself. By the 4th morning, smoke rose steadily from one Moonfall chimney for the first time in 7 winters. The manor was still a ruin, but one warm room had become 2, then 3, and the more Mira cared for the house, the more the house revealed. A carved Blackmore wolf beneath years of soot. A dining table still laid for a meal nobody finished. A cloak hook with one dark coat left hanging. A portrait of Rowan Blackmore, the face deliberately slashed. That disturbed Mira more than the dust. Abandonment happened slowly. Hatred required a hand. Hale found her staring at the damaged portrait. He wasn't the monster they made him after he died, he said. What was he? A man who remembered stable boys' names. An alpha who repaired a roof beside his own workers. Terrible at formal dinners. Mira looked at him. That last one sounds unforgivable. For the first time, Hale laughed inside Moonfall. The sound felt strange in the dead hall. Almost wrong. Then, somehow, welcome. That evening, Mira entered Rowan's library. The largest room she'd seen. Books covered the walls floor to ceiling. A great oak desk stood beneath tall windows. Dust lay over everything in the same thick gray layer. Everything except one narrow panel behind the desk. Mira noticed, because she'd spent 4 days learning what 7 winters of neglect looked like. The panel was too clean, not polished, simply untouched by the decay around it. She pressed it. Nothing. Searched for a hinge. Nothing. Tapped the wood. Solid. The next afternoon, she returned. Then again after Lila slept. The mystery became irritating enough to feel personal, so she cleaned the desk. One drawer held dried sealing wax. Another, old correspondence ruined by damp. A third was empty. When Mira crouched beneath the desk, her rag snagged on something sharp. She pulled. The cloth tore. A glint of black silver showed beneath the wood. She worked it loose with the point of a knife. A broken metal fragment dropped into her palm. Half a wolf's face engraved into it. Small. Dark. Apparently worthless. Mira turned it over. The edges were polished from repeated handling. Someone had hidden it there deliberately. She looked toward the strange panel. The carved wolf in its center was missing one eye. The fragment fit the empty socket. Nothing happened. Lila, watching from the rug, frowned. Maybe it needs the other eye too. Mira touched the wolf's remaining metal eye. It moved. She pressed both at once. Click. A line appeared beside the panel. Cold air slipped through it. Mira pushed. The wall opened. Behind it was a private study untouched by the rest of Moonfall's decay. Maps covered one wall. Rowan's dark coat still hung from a hook. A candle had burned down beside an unfinished page, as if its owner expected to return before morning. Mira stepped toward the maps. One showed Moonfall itself. Every wing, every staircase, every cellar. Then she noticed a black circle beneath the house. Rowan had drawn it around a room that appeared on no other plan. Beside it, in his own hand, one word. Below. Mira's skin tightened. Behind her, Lila whispered, "Mama." A heavy blow shook the silence. Thud. Not beneath the kitchen this time. Beneath them. Much closer. Lila pointed at the map. That's him. Mira stared at the black circle. For 4 days, Moonfall had given her pieces. Warmth. Shelter. A hidden room. A broken piece of silver. Now it had given her a direction. And somewhere beneath the house, The man from the gate was still waiting. Mira didn't wait for morning. She sent Lila back to the kitchen with Elowin, took Hale's lantern, and followed Rowan's map into the lower cellars. The black circle marked a place behind the eastern storage wall. At first, nothing but old wine racks and damp stone. Then Hale found a carved wolf, nearly hidden beneath soot. One paw rested over a crescent moon. Mira took the broken black-silver fragment from her pocket. A narrow slot sat beneath the carving. The fragment slid in. Stone moved. Cold air rushed through the opening. A staircase descended beneath Moonfall. Hale lifted the lantern. Moonstone. Pale blue veins ran through the walls. What is it? Old Alpha healing stone, built to keep badly injured Blackmoors alive. They went lower. The smell reached Mira first. Wolfsbane. Her wolf recoiled inside her. Then she saw the silver. Chains ran from iron rings in the walls. The healing chamber had been turned into a prison. A scrape came from below. Then a voice. Barely human. Water. Mira stopped. Lila had been right. There was a man under the house. At the bottom stood an iron barrier. Beyond it, someone sat chained against the far wall. Dark hair hung across his face. Silver cuffs locked his wrists. 7 winters had reduced a once powerful body to bone, scars, and stubborn breath. Hale raised the lantern. The man lifted his head. Gold eyes opened. Hale dropped to one knee. My Alpha. Mira stared. Rowan Blackmore was alive. For days the question had been, who was knocking beneath Moonfall? Now the answer stood before her, and somehow it made the mystery larger. Mira opened the barrier. Hale caught her arm. We don't know what 7 years in silver has done to him. He asked for water. That is Rowan Blackmore. And right now he's a thirsty man chained to a wall. She crouched beside him. He tried to take the water skin, but his hand shook too badly. Mira held it for him. Slowly. His eyes narrowed. You give orders easily. You nearly choked easily. Something almost like amusement touched his face. Then it disappeared. He drank. When he finished, Rowan looked at Hale. How long? Hale couldn't answer. Mira did. 7 winters. Rowan went completely still. 7. Yes. His gaze dropped. For the first time, Mira understood. He hadn't known. 7 winters had passed above him, while he stayed buried beneath his own house. Who did this? She asked. Garrick Vane. Garrick Vane. Something shifted in Rowan's face. Vane, he said again, quieter. He was the one who convinced the elders you were a burden. Before you ever reached this gate. Mira went still. You know that. Word travels between packs faster than snow melts. A packless widow and her sick child, turned away from every door. That kind of cruelty has a name attached to it eventually. His. Hale inhaled sharply. Rowan spoke in short pieces. Garrick had drugged his wine before a winter council. Rowan woke in the old healing chamber, silver around his wrists, wolfsbane packed into the walls. The moonstone kept him alive. The silver kept his wolf too weak to heal. Every time he grew strong enough to fight the restraints, more wolfsbane came through a feeding hatch in the rear wall. Garrick had taken a room built to save Blackmore alphas and turned it into the perfect place to bury one alive. Why not kill you? Mira asked. Rowan looked toward the feeding hatch. Because he never found what I hid. Mira said nothing. Every few months he came back himself. Food, water, questions. He thought hunger, silver, or time would make me tell him where it was. And you never did. Rowan's mouth tightened. No. 7 winters. Garrick hadn't kept Rowan alive out of mercy. He'd kept him alive because a dead man can't be interrogated. Mira examined the cuffs. The lock plates bore the same half-wolf symbol as her fragment. Rowan saw it in her hand. His expression changed. Where did you get that? Under your desk. You opened the study? Yes. Real alarm crossed his face for the first time. Then Garrick will come. He already did. Rowan looked at her sharply. Mira told him about Garrick's questions. his reaction to Lila, the deadline he'd given her. When she finished, Rowan leaned his head back against the stone. He knows the house is waking. What does that mean? It means he's afraid you'll find what I hid. Hoofbeats sounded faintly above them. Hale swore. They hurried upstairs. Garrick entered Moonfall with 2 sentinels behind him. He didn't shout. That made him worse. His eyes moved over the cleaned kitchen, the lit hearth, the open corridors. Then he went straight to Rowan's library. The hidden panel was closed. Not perfectly. Garrick saw it. "You've been in here." Mira stood between him and the desk. "I've been cleaning." "The Western Tower?" "No." "The old chapel?" "No." "The lower cellars?" Mira said nothing. He'd named 3 places without being asked. Not random rooms. Places where something might be hidden. Garrick stepped closer. "When the road clears at dawn, you leave. My daughter is still recovering." "That's no longer my concern." It never was. His expression hardened. "Be careful, Mira Vale. Old houses make desperate people imagine they've found things that don't belong to them." Then he left. Only after the hoofbeats faded did Mira return below. Rowan looked at her. "He knows." "Yes. How long?" "Until dawn." Rowan closed his eyes, then opened them again. "Good." Mira stared. "Good?" For 7 years he believed he had all the time in the world. A trace of the old alpha returned to his voice. Now he doesn't. Mira crouched beside him. "What did you hide?" Rowan looked at the fragment. Proof. Before Garrick's betrayal, families had come to Rowan with the same complaints. Winter grain vanishing from storehouses, widows losing land over debts they never owed, rejected wolves turned away from shelters Moonfall had once maintained. Rowan had started collecting records, ledgers, witness statements, old laws Garrick wanted forgotten. "I hid everything before the council meeting where he poisoned me." "Where?" Rowan frowned. 7 years of wolfsbane had eaten holes in his memory. "West. That narrows it to half the house. A room that sees the moon but never the sunrise." Hale looked up. The Western Tower. They left Rowan hidden and began searching. This time the story of Moonfall changed again. Mira was no longer wandering an abandoned manor. She was racing a man who'd return at dawn. The Western Tower held 6 rooms. The first had collapsed. The second was empty. The third held only broken furniture. In the fourth, Lila found them. Mira frowned. "You were supposed to stay with Elowin." "I did." "For how long?" Lila thought about it. "A while." Hale coughed to hide a laugh. Then Lila pointed at the stone around the narrow tower window. "Mama, that wolf." The same half-wolf emblem, carved into the frame. Mira moved closer. Moonlight crossed the western glass. No sunrise could ever touch this room. Rowan's words came back to her. A room that sees the moon but never the sunrise. They searched the wall. Nothing. The floor. Nothing. Then Mira noticed moonlight crossing a stone wolf carved beneath the window. One eye missing. Her fingers closed around the fragment. Garrick believed Rowan's last secret had died with him. Mira was standing inches from proving him wrong. She pressed the fragment into the empty eye. Click. Stone shifted. A narrow compartment opened. Inside sat a black iron chest bearing the Blackmore wolf. Hale whispered, "Moonfall Covenant chest. You know it?" "Only from stories. No keyhole." The fragment was still lodged in the wolf's eye. Mira pressed it once more. The chest unlocked. No gold inside. Something more dangerous waited there. Rowan's alpha seal, bound ledgers, folded testimony bearing old council marks, land records, and beneath them, a parchment wrapped in dark blue cloth. Mira opened it. She read slowly. Moonfall had once been protected ground. Widows, orphaned children, packless families. Wolves rejected during winter. No regent, beta, council member, or alpha could turn them back into the cold while the sanctuary hearth still burned. Funds from Moonfall's lands had been set aside to feed and shelter them. Mira looked at Hale. Why does nobody know this? His face had gone hard. Because someone made sure they forgot. She opened the ledgers. The sanctuary money hadn't vanished. It had been redirected, year after year. The same signature beside every transfer. Garrick Vane. Something cold settled inside her. The villagers who'd refused Lila a bowl of broth had been living under a regent who stole from the very refuge built for people like them. Moonfall, the place everyone mocked as useless, had never been useless. It had been silenced. A violent gust struck the tower, then another. Snow slammed the narrow window. Hale looked outside. The storm turned. Mira barely heard him. She was still holding the covenant when a distant cry rose from beyond the estate. Human, desperate. Then the crash of wood. Lila ran to the window. "There's a wagon at the gate." Mira looked down. Through the snow, an overturned cart. Figures struggling beside it. People from Black Hollow. The same village that had refused her shelter. Mira closed the covenant. For the first time since arriving at Moonfall, the secret in her hands gave her power. Before she could use it against Garrick, the house wanted to know what kind of woman would hold it. "Get blankets," she said. Then she ran for the stairs. Mira reached the courtyard, just as the wagon rolled onto its side. The horse screamed. One wheel spun uselessly in the snow. A man lay half-buried, while a woman fought to pull a boy from beneath a canvas cover. Mira knew them. They'd been in the common house. The man had looked away when she asked for broth. The woman had whispered, "Packless." Then the boy cried out. Mira ran. "Hail, the horse!" She dropped to her knees beside the woman. "My son's leg is trapped. Hold him still." Together they lifted the frame enough for the boy to crawl free. His lips were blue. Mira wrapped him in her cloak. "Moonfall. Now." The woman stared at her. "We can't go in there." Mira looked at the storm swallowing the road behind them. "You can freeze outside if you prefer." That ended the argument. Within minutes, the kitchen that had sheltered Mira and Lila was crowded with wet boots, shaking hands, steaming blankets. Elowyn took the boy. Hale carried in the injured father. Lila fed wood to the hearth, one piece at a time. Mira opened the last of their food. The woman noticed. "You don't have much." "No. And you're giving it to us?" Mira broke the bread in half. "Your child is hungry." Nothing more needed saying. Above them, the storm battered Moonfall. The old walls held. The hearth burned. The boy's color returned. The father's breathing steadied. For the first time in 7 winters, Moonfall was doing exactly what the Covenant said it was built to do. Shelter the unwanted. Much later, when everyone else was resting, Mira carried a cup of broth below. Rowan was awake. "You brought them inside," he said. "You heard? This house carries sound. They would have died. They turned you away." "Yes, and you still opened the door." She shrugged. Their son didn't turn Lila away. Rowan watched her a long moment. Something different in his expression now. Not gratitude, not curiosity, something quieter, more dangerous. Mira felt it too, and looked away first. By dawn, the storm had weakened. Corin could stand with Hale's help. His wife, Sarah, held Mira's hands before leaving. "I was there yesterday." Mira knew exactly what she meant. Sarah's eyes dropped. "I said nothing when they refused you. You were afraid. That doesn't make it kind." "No." Sarah swallowed. "You saved my son anyway." Mira looked toward the hearth where Lila slept. "I knew what it was to need someone to open a door." Corin heard her. So did Hale. By midday, Black Hollow knew. The story traveled faster than the storm had. The rejected woman at Moonfall had taken in a family stranded in the snow. The cursed manor had kept them alive. The old sanctuary hearth was burning again. For the first time, Garrick Vane wasn't controlling every version of the story. He arrived before sunset. This time with 6 sentinels. Corin and Sarah were still there. So were 2 villagers who'd come with food after hearing what happened. Garrick saw them inside Moonfall and stopped. "What is this?" Mira stood in the doorway. "Shelter." This is not an inn. No. You were ordered to leave. The road was closed. It's open now. Behind Mira. Sarah pulled her son closer. Garrick saw it. His face hardened. All of you. Out. Nobody moved. Garrick looked at Mira. You do not decide who enters this estate. Mira reached into her cloak and pulled out the folded parchment. I think Moonfall decided that long before either of us. He saw the Blackmore seal. Real fear broke through his composure for the first time. Where did you get that? Mira unfolded the covenant. From the house you said was empty. Garrick stepped forward. Give it to me. No. That document belongs to Black Hollow. It says otherwise. His gaze flashed to Hale, then to the villagers. Too many witnesses. He lowered his voice. You have no idea what you're holding. I know exactly what it says. She read it aloud. Widows, orphan children, packless families, and wolves cast out in winter may claim sanctuary beneath Moonfall's roof. Sarah stared at Garrick. So did Corin. No regent may turn them back into the cold while the sanctuary hearth still burns. Garrick's jaw tightened. That law is dead. No, Mira said. You buried it. The courtyard went silent. For one dangerous second, Mira thought. Instead, Garrick smiled, coldly. Old parchment proves nothing. Tomorrow I return with the council, and you'll learn what your place is. He turned to leave. Stopped. His eyes moved to Moonfall's upper windows. Whatever you think you found here, Mira Vale, it will not save you. The riders disappeared down the road. Mira waited until they were gone, then turned to Hale. We can't stand before the council with papers they'll call forged. Hale nodded slowly. There's one man who can verify the old Blackmore records. Will he? If he sees the seal. Mira looked toward the hidden stair. And Rowan? Hale followed her gaze. If Garrick comes back with the council, hiding him won't matter anymore. Mira went below. Rowan listened as she explained. When she finished, he closed his eyes for a moment, then pushed himself upright against the wall, still weak, still scarred, but no longer looking buried. Who's the record keeper? Mira asked. Maelor Fenn. You trust him? I did. 7 winters ago. Mira held the covenant to her chest. That